Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a question. When was the last time you felt truly alive? Not just busy, productive, or accomplished, but deeply alive when your heart raced not from fear, but from stepping into something bold, raw, and real. For many of us, that feeling is rare. Life gets heavy. We're buried under expectations, our own, others, societies. And yet, buried inside all that weight is something extraordinary you. The real you. The one with dreams that scare you, flaws that make you human, and potential that's limitless. Today, we're going to talk about rising, getting back up after life knocks us down, and thriving, not just surviving, but stepping into the fullness of who you're meant to be. Vulnerability is one of the most misunderstood concepts in our lives. For many of us, vulnerability is synonymous with weakness. It's the thing we avoid, the crack in our armor we desperately try to hide. After all, if people see the real us, our fears, our mistakes, our uncertainties, what will they think? The world often teaches us that vulnerability should be concealed, a sign that we are not strong enough, capable enough, or worthy enough. But here's the truth: vulnerability is not weakness. In fact, it is one of the most courageous and powerful tools we have for growth, connection, and transformation. Vulnerability is the foundation of strength because it is the willingness to show up fully, even when there are no guarantees. It is stepping into the unknown, opening ourselves to potential judgment, failure, or pain, and doing it anyway. Let's start with this: vulnerability is unavoidable. Whether we realize it or not, we live with it every day. Think about it: applying for a job is vulnerable. Saying "I love you" first is vulnerable. Standing in front of a crowd, speaking your truth, or asking for help, these are all acts of vulnerability. The question isn't whether or not you're vulnerable, it's whether or not you're vulnerable, it's whether or not you're willing to embrace it as a strength instead of seeing it as something to hide or fear. One of the reasons we resist vulnerability is that we equate it with exposure. To be vulnerable means to reveal parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden, the imperfect, messy, unsure parts. Society often rewards the illusion of invulnerability leaders who appear to have all the answers, professionals who never falter, people who always seem put together. But this is just a performance. Nobody is invulnerable. Nobody has it all together all the time. And trying to uphold that illusion is not only exhausting, but also isolating. When we resist vulnerability, we also resist connection. Think about the relationships in your life that matter most, the ones where you feel deeply seen and understood. These relationships didn't form because you were perfect. They formed because you were real. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with others, we create space for genuine connection. It's not in our polished, edited selves that people find us relatable. It's in the moments when we let our guard down, admit our struggles, and share our hearts. Vulnerability fosters trust, and trust is the glue that holds relationships together. But vulnerability isn't just about relationships with others, it's also about the relationship we have with ourselves. When we avoid vulnerability, we often do so because we're afraid of what it will reveal about us. We avoid the discomfort of admitting that we don't know something, that we're scared, or that we failed. But in doing so, we cut ourselves off from growth. Vulnerability is where transformation happens. It's where we confront our fears, learn from our mistakes, and stretch into new possibilities. Consider this: every courageous act you've ever taken has required vulnerability. Whether it was starting a new career, ending a toxic relationship, or pursuing a dream, you had to step into the unknown. You had to risk failure, rejection, or criticism. Vulnerability is the birthplace of courage, creativity, and change. You cannot innovate or evolve without it. Every great inventor, artist, or leader has faced the vulnerability of trying something new, of risking ridicule or rejection, and of putting themselves out there. But embracing vulnerability doesn't mean recklessly exposing every part of yourself to everyone you meet. Vulnerability is about discernment. It's about knowing who has earned the right to see your heart. It's about sharing from a place of strength, not fear. And it's about understanding that vulnerability is not a one-time choice, it's a practice. Every day, we are faced with opportunities to choose vulnerability, to have the hard conversation, to admit when we're wrong, to stand up for what we believe in. These moments may be uncomfortable, but they are also where our greatest growth occurs. It's also important to acknowledge that vulnerability can feel incredibly uncomfortable. There's a reason why so many of us avoid it. It's scary to feel exposed. It's scary to feel exposed. It's scary to take risks and to open ourselves to potential criticism or failure. But the discomfort of vulnerability is temporary, and it's a small price to pay for the rewards it brings. When we embrace vulnerability, we experience deeper relationships, greater self-awareness, and the freedom to live authentically. We free ourselves from the constant pressure to be perfect and allow ourselves to simply be human. One of the most profound aspects of vulnerability is its ability to dismantle shame. Shame thrives in secrecy. It tells us that we're not good enough and that we need to hide our imperfections. But when we bring our vulnerabilities into the light, when we share them with trusted others, we rob shame of its power. We realize that we are not alone in our struggles, that others have been there too, and that our imperfections do not make us unworthy. In fact, they make us human. In a world that often values strength as stoicism or invulnerability, choosing vulnerability is a radical act. It's a declaration that you are enough, just as you are, flaws and all. It's a reminder that true strength is not about avoiding pain or fear, but about facing them with courage and openness. Vulnerability invites us to live fuller, richer lives, unburdened by the weight of pretending to be something we're not. When we embrace vulnerability, we open the door to possibility. We step into our lives with authenticity, courage, and the knowledge that our worth is not tied to our achievements or our ability to avoid failure. Instead, it's tied to our willingness to show up, to be seen, and to keep trying even when it's hard. Perfectionism is a seductive trap. It whispers promises of worthiness, acceptance, and success if only we can get everything exactly right. It tells us that if we are flawless, we will be beyond reproach, immune to criticism, and loved unconditionally. But perfectionism doesn't deliver on these promises. Instead, it keeps us stuck in a never-ending cycle of self-criticism, exhaustion, and fear of failure. Letting go of perfectionism is one of the most liberating choices we can make, but it's also one of the hardest. It means redefining what success looks like and learning to embrace imperfection as part of what makes us human. Perfectionism is not the same as striving for excellence. Striving for excellence comes from a healthy desire to do our best and grow. It's about effort, progress, and learning. Perfectionism, on the other hand, is rooted in fear of failure, judgment, and not being enough. It's not about being better, it's about avoiding mistakes at all costs. Perfectionism convinces us that our worth is tied to our achievements, and that any misstep or imperfection diminishes our value. The problem with perfectionism is that it's unattainable. No matter how hard we try, perfection is a moving target. What's perfect today might not be good enough tomorrow. When we aim for perfection, we set ourselves up for perpetual disappointment. We become trapped in a loop of not enough, not smart enough, not accomplished enough, not prepared enough. Instead of celebrating our progress, we focus on what we haven't done, what we could have done better, or what others might think. This mindset not only robs us of joy, but also keeps us from taking risks or trying new things. After all, if we can't guarantee success, why bother? One of the most harmful aspects of perfectionism is how it stifles creativity and growth. Creativity, by its very nature, requires imperfection. It's about exploration, experimentation, and making mistakes along the way. When we're stuck in perfectionism, we're too afraid to color outside the lines or attempt something we might not excel at immediately. We hold ourselves back, choosing safety over possibility. But the truth is, failure and imperfection are essential for growth. They're how we learn, adapt, and discover what we're truly capable of. Letting go of perfectionism means embracing the messiness of growth and seeing mistakes not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and improve. Perfectionism also isolates us. It creates an invisible barrier between us and the people around us. When we're striving to appear perfect, we can't show our real selves. We hide our struggles, deny our vulnerabilities, and pretend we have everything under control. But this performance is exhausting, and it prevents us from forming authentic connections. People don't connect with us because we're perfect, they connect with us because we're real. When we let go of perfectionism, we allow ourselves to be seen as we are flaws and all, and create space for genuine relationships. Another way perfectionism harms us is by fueling procrastination. Ironically, many perfectionists struggle to start tasks or finish projects because they fear not doing them perfectly. The pressure to meet impossibly high standards can be so overwhelming that we avoid taking action altogether. We tell ourselves we're waiting for the right moment, the perfect conditions, or more preparation, but in reality, we're paralyzed by fear. Letting go of perfectionism doesn't mean we stop caring or trying. It means we recognize that good enough is often more than enough, and that progress is better than paralysis. Perfectionism also takes a toll on our mental health. The constant pressure to meet unrelenting standards can lead to anxiety, depression, and burnout. When our self-worth is tied to our performance, every mistake feels like a personal failure. We become our own harshest critics, replaying our perceived shortcomings over and over in our minds. This inner dialogue can be incredibly damaging, leaving us feeling unworthy and unfulfilled. Letting go of perfectionism means learning to treat ourselves with kindness and compassion. It means recognizing that our value isn't determined by our accomplishments or the approval of others. Letting go of perfectionism also means redefining success. For perfectionists, success often means achieving an ideal outcome with no room for error. But this definition is rigid and unrealistic. A healthier approach is to focus on effort, growth, and the lessons learned along the way. Success doesn't have to mean being the best or getting everything right. It can mean showing up, trying your hardest, and staying true to your values. When we shift our focus from perfection to progress, we free ourselves from the fear of failure and create space for growth and discovery. An essential step in letting go of perfectionism is challenging the beliefs that drive it. Many of us grow up believing that our worth is tied to our achievements, that we need to earn love and acceptance by being perfect. These beliefs are deeply ingrained, but they're not true. Our worth is inherent. It doesn't depend on what we do or how well we perform. Recognizing this truth can be incredibly freeing. It allows us to let go of the need to prove ourselves and embrace who we are, imperfections and all. Another important part of letting go of perfectionism is learning to embrace vulnerability. When we let go of the need to be perfect, we open ourselves up to being seen as we truly are. This can be scary, but it's also liberating. Vulnerability allows us to connect with others, take risks, and live more authentically. It reminds us that we don't have to have it all together to be worthy of love and belonging. Finally, letting go of perfectionism is about embracing the idea that we are already enough. We don't have to do more, be more, or achieve more to prove our worth. We can give ourselves permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to learn along the way. When we let go of perfectionism, we don't lose our drive or ambition. We gain the freedom to pursue our goals with courage, creativity, and self-compassion. Fear is a universal experience. It touches every one of us, showing up in different forms and at different moments in our lives. Fear is the voice that whispers, "What if I fail?" It's the knot in your stomach before stepping into the unknown. It's the hesitation that keeps you on the sidelines when your heart is begging you to take a leap. We often think that the solution to fear is certainty, that if only we had all the answers, if only we knew how things would turn out, we could move forward with confidence. But here's the true: certainty is an illusion. What we need to face fear isn't certainty, it's courage. Courage and fear are not opposites. In fact, courage cannot exist without fear. If there's nothing to fear, there's no need for courage. Courage is the act of moving forward despite fear, not in its absence. It's choosing to take action even when you're unsure of the outcome, even when your hands are shaking and your heart is racing. It's saying, "This scares me, but I'm doing it anyway." Courage is not about eliminating fear, it's about changing your relationship with it. Fear often tricks us into believing that it's a signal to stop. It tells us to turn back, stay safe, and avoid discomfort. And while fear is a natural response designed to protect us from harm, it doesn't always know the difference between a real threat and a perceived one. Fear of failure, rejection, or embarrassment can feel just as intense as fear of physical danger, but it's not a reason to stop. Instead, it's a sign that you're stepping into something important, something that matters to you. The presence of fear often means you're on the edge of growth. The desire for certainty is one of the biggest barriers to courage. We often tell ourselves, "I'll take the leap when I'm sure it will work out," or "I'll act when I know exactly what to do." But certainty is rare, if not impossible, in life. Waiting for it keeps us stuck, paralyzed by indecision and inaction. If we refuse to move until we're certain, we may never move at all. The reality is that most meaningful choices in life come with uncertainty. Whether it's starting a new career, pursuing a passion, or building a relationship, there are no guarantees. But it's in taking the risk, despite the uncertainty, that we open ourselves to possibility. Courage doesn't mean you won't feel fear. It means you don't let fear make your decisions for you. When you let fear dictate your actions, you shrink your world to what feels safe and predictable. You avoid the things that scare you, but in doing so, you also avoid opportunities for growth, joy, and discovery. Courage requires you to feel the fear, acknowledge it, and then act anyway. It's not about being fearless, it's about being brave enough to take the next step, even if the path ahead isn't clear. One of the most powerful ways to face fear is to reframe it. Instead of seeing fear as a signal to stop, view it as a sign that you're stepping into something meaningful. Fear shows up when we care about the outcome, when we're investing our time, energy, or heart into something that matters. It's a reminder that you're alive, that you're challenging yourself, and that you're growing. By reframing fear as a companion on the journey rather than an obstacle, you can move forward with a greater sense of purpose and determination. Another important aspect of courage is embracing failure as part of the process. Fear of failure is one of the biggest reasons we avoid taking risks. We worry about what others will think, about falling short of our own expectations, or about the pain of rejection. But failure is not the opposite of success, it's a necessary part of it. Every failure teaches us something valuable. It helps us refine our approach, build resilience, and get closer to our goals. When we shift our mindset from fearing failure to seeing it as an opportunity to learn, we become more willing to take risks and face our fears. It's also important to remember that courage is not a solo act. Asking for help, seeking support, and leaning on others are acts of courage in themselves. Fear often isolates us, making us feel like we're the only ones struggling. But when we share our fears with trusted people, we realize we're not alone. We gain perspective, encouragement, and the strength to keep going. Courage doesn't mean you have to do it all on your own. It means being brave enough to admit when you need a helping hand. Practicing courage is like building a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger you become. Start small. Take a step that feels manageable but still stretches you beyond your comfort zone. Each time you face a fear and come out on the other side, you build confidence in your ability to handle the unknown. Over time, you'll find that courage becomes more natural, not because fear disappears, but because you've proven to yourself that you can face it and move forward. Finally, let's talk about the idea of embracing uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and trying to control every outcome is exhausting and futile. When we let go of the need for certainty, we free ourselves to fully experience the present moment. We stop waiting for the perfect time or conditions and start living with intention. Embracing uncertainty doesn't mean being reckless, it means recognizing that some of the best things in life come from the unexpected. It means trusting that even if you don't know exactly what's ahead, you have the courage to navigate whatever comes your way. Fear is a natural part of life, but it doesn't have to control us. By facing fear with courage, instead of waiting for certainty, we unlock our potential to grow, connect, and thrive. Courage is the choice to show up even when we're scared, and to keep moving forward even when the path is unclear. When we choose courage over certainty, we discover that we are far more capable and resilient than we ever imagined. Connection is one of the most fundamental aspects of being human. It's the invisible thread that ties us to one another, the lifeblood of our relationships, and the foundation of our communities. We are wired for connection emotionally, biologically, and even spiritually. Yet, in today's fast-paced and often disconnected world, it's easy to overlook the profound impact connection has on our lives. When we embrace the power of connection, we unlock the potential to thrive, not just survive, by fostering deeper relationships, greater empathy, and a stronger sense of belonging. Connection is more than simply being around other people. True connection is about being seen, heard, and valued for who we are. It's about creating spaces where authenticity thrives, where we can drop the masks we wear and show up as our true selves. In a world that often prioritizes performance, productivity, and perfection, connection invites us to slow down and engage with one another in meaningful ways. It reminds us that we don't have to go through life alone, and that our value isn't determined by what we achieve, but by who we are. At its core, connection fulfills our most basic human need to belong. Belonging isn't just about fitting in or being included, it's about feeling accepted and valued for who we are, even in our imperfections. When we feel a genuine sense of belonging, we experience greater resilience, improved mental health, and a stronger sense of purpose. But when connection is absent, the effects can be profound. Loneliness, isolation, and disconnection can take a significant toll on our well-being. Studies have shown that chronic loneliness is as harmful to our health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, underscoring the critical role connection plays in our overall health and happiness. True connection begins with vulnerability. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for authentic relationships. Vulnerability means taking risks, sharing our fears, and opening up about our struggles. It's saying, this is who I am, even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect. While vulnerability can feel uncomfortable, it's also the birthplace of connection. It allows others to see us as we truly are, fostering trust and intimacy. Without vulnerability, our interactions can remain surface level, lacking the depth and authenticity that make relationships meaningful. Empathy is another essential ingredient in the power of connection. Empathy is the ability to step into someone else's shoes, to see the world through their eyes, and to feel with them, not just for them. It's about listening deeply without judgment or the need to fix, and offering our presence as a source of comfort. Empathy bridges the gap between us, reminding us that we're not alone in our struggles. It strengthens relationships by fostering understanding and compassion, allowing us to connect on a deeper, more human level. In a world dominated by technology, connection can sometimes feel more elusive than ever. While social media and digital communication have made it easier to stay in touch, they often fall short of creating the deep, meaningful connections we crave. Scrolling through a feed or exchanging a few texts isn't the same as sitting down with someone, looking them in the eye, and truly engaging. Technology has its place, but it's no substitute for the richness of face-to-face interaction. Prioritizing real-world connections, whether through shared experiences, meaningful conversations, or simple acts of kindness, allows us to cultivate relationships that nourish our souls. Connection also has the power to transform communities. When we come together with others who share our values, dreams, or challenges, we create something larger than ourselves. Communities provide support, encouragement, and a sense of belonging. They remind us that we're stronger together and that we don't have to face life's challenges alone. Whether it's a group of friends, a workplace team, or a neighborhood organization, the bonds we form with others have the potential to inspire change, foster resilience, and build a sense of collective purpose. The power of connection isn't just about receiving support, it's also about giving it. When we show up for others, we create a ripple effect of kindness, compassion, and encouragement. Acts of connection don't have to be grand gestures often, it's the small things that make the biggest impact. A genuine smile, a thoughtful message, or simply being present can create a moment of connection that brightens someone's day. By reaching out and investing in others, we not only strengthen our relationships, but also enrich our own lives. One of the most beautiful aspects of connection is its ability to remind us of our shared humanity. Despite our differences in background, culture, or experiences, connection highlights what we have in common. It reminds us that we all have hopes, dreams, fears, and struggles. When we connect with others, we break down barriers and build bridges. We cultivate empathy, understanding, and a sense of unity. In a world that often feels divided, connection has the power to heal, to bring us together, and to remind us of our inherent interconnectedness. Connection isn't always easy. It requires effort, intention, and the willingness to be present. In a society that values independence and self-reliance, it can be tempting to go it alone. But the truth is, we're not meant to do life by ourselves. Connection is what gives our lives meaning and purpose. It's what brings us joy in the good times and comfort in the hard times. It's what reminds us that no matter what we're going through, we are not alone. When we embrace the power of connection, we open ourselves to a richer, more meaningful life. We create relationships that sustain us, communities that uplift us, and a world that feels less isolated and more united. Connection invites us to be present, to listen, to share, and to love, reminding us that the most important things in life are not things at all, but the people we share it with. In a culture that emphasizes results, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that success is measured solely by outcomes. We celebrate promotions, degrees, awards, and milestones, often overlooking the journey it took to get there. But focusing exclusively on outcomes can rob us of some of life's most meaningful experiences. The truth is, the process, the steps we take, the lessons we learn, the challenges we overcome is where the real growth and fulfillment happen. When we shift our focus to celebrating the process, we allow ourselves to find joy in the journey, rather than waiting for a distant moment of achievement to feel a sense of accomplishment. At its core, celebrating the process means valuing the effort, resilience, and progress that occur along the way. Life is not a straight line from goal to success. It's a winding road filled with detours, obstacles, and unexpected turns. Each step we take on that road, no matter how small, is an accomplishment in its own right. By celebrating these steps, we give ourselves permission to acknowledge our growth and progress, even if the final outcome is still out of reach. One of the biggest benefits of celebrating the process is that it keeps us motivated. When we focus solely on the end result, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, especially when that result seems far away. The journey toward any significant goal can be long and challenging, and if we don't take time to recognize our progress, we risk burning out or giving up altogether. Celebrating small wins along the way helps us stay energized and committed. Each milestone becomes a reminder that we're moving forward, that our efforts are paying off, and that we're capable of overcoming challenges. The process is also where learning happens. Every attempt, every mistake, every setback is an opportunity to grow and refine our skills. When we celebrate the process, we shift our mindset from fearing failure to embracing it as a natural part of growth. Mistakes are not the opposite of progress, they are a crucial part of it. They teach us what doesn't work, help us develop resilience, and often lead to unexpected discoveries. By valuing the process, we recognize that our worth isn't tied to perfection, but to our willingness to learn, adapt, and keep going. Focusing on the process also allows us to stay present. Too often, we're so fixated on the future that we miss what's happening right now. We think, I'll be happy when I achieve this goal, or I'll celebrate once I get there, but in doing so, we overlook the richness of the journey. The process is filled with moments of growth, connection, and joy that are just as meaningful, if not more so, than the outcome. By celebrating these moments, we cultivate a sense of gratitude and presence that enhances our overall well-being. Another powerful reason to celebrate the process is that it builds confidence. When we acknowledge the effort and progress we're making, we reinforce the belief that we're capable of achieving our goals. This confidence grows with each step we take. It's not about waiting until we've arrived to feel proud of ourselves. It's about recognizing that every action we take, no matter how small, is a testament to our strength and determination. Confidence isn't something we gain overnight. It's built piece by piece through the consistent effort of showing up for ourselves and our goals. Celebrating the process also helps us reframe our relationship with success. In a results-driven society, success is often narrowly defined by external achievements. But success is about more than just reaching a specific milestone. It's about who we become along the way. It's about the courage to start, the resilience to keep going, and the character we build through the ups and downs. When we celebrate the process, we broaden our definition of success to include the growth, learning, and transformation that happen on the journey. Moreover, celebrating the process allows us to cultivate a sense of self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on ourselves when we fall short of a goal or when progress feels slow. But the process is rarely linear, and setbacks are a natural part of any journey. By celebrating the effort we're putting in, even when things don't go as planned, we remind ourselves that we're doing the best we can. Self-compassion gives us the grace to keep moving forward, knowing that progress is progress, no matter how imperfect it may seem. Focusing on the process also helps us stay aligned with our values. Outcomes are often influenced by factors beyond our control, but the process is where we have agency. When we celebrate the effort and intention we bring to the process, we prioritize what truly matters: our commitment, our integrity, and our growth. This alignment with our values gives deeper meaning to our actions and allows us to feel a sense of fulfillment, regardless of the final outcome. Finally, celebrating the process fosters a mindset of curiosity and exploration. When we're fixated on the outcome, we can become rigid and narrowly focused, afraid to take risks or try new approaches for fear of failing. But when we value the process, we give ourselves permission to experiment, to be creative, and to enjoy the act of doing. This mindset not only makes the journey more enjoyable, but also often leads to better outcomes, as we're more open to innovation and discovery. The process is where life happens. It's where we grow, learn, and connect with ourselves and others. By choosing to celebrate the process, we honor the journey, not just the destination. We find joy in the effort, meaning in the challenges, and fulfillment in the simple act of showing up and doing the work. Life is not just about what we achieve, it's about how we grow, learn, and thrive along the way. As we journey through life, it's easy to become consumed by external goals, tangible outcomes, and the endless pursuit of perfection. But true fulfillment lies not in reaching a distant destination, but in embracing the lessons and experiences along the way. When we dare to face fear with courage rather than waiting for certainty, we unlock strength we didn't know we had. When we let go of perfectionism, we allow ourselves the freedom to grow, evolve, and connect authentically. By celebrating the process instead of obsessing over the outcome, we discover joy in the journey and meaning in every step we take. And at the heart of it all is connection, the relationships we build, the vulnerability we share, and the empathy that reminds us we're not alone. Life's greatest treasures are not found in individual achievements, but in the moments where we rise together, rooted in our shared humanity. The path to unlocking our inner potential is not paved with certainty, perfection, or control. It's built on courage, resilience, and the willingness to show up, flaws and all. So let us rise and thrive, not by chasing an impossible ideal, but by leaning into the beauty of the imperfect, the uncertain, and the deeply connected. Let us dare to live fully, celebrate boldly, and embrace the power of who we are and who we're becoming. The journey is the gift, and every step we take toward our authentic selves brings us closer to a life that is rich with purpose, joy, and meaning.